Good morning, everybody. It is December 20th, 2024, and this is Tales from the Heart, a podcast by the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association. And today I am doing a solo news style update of what's coming up in 2025 and a little bit of reflection on where we've been in 2024. So I welcome you all to drop questions throughout the podcast, and I will do my best to answer them in live time as I'm just kind of solo today. So real big shout out and thanks to Matt Martinez for all of his partnership throughout the year. However, today, it's end of the year. Lots of patients want to see their doctor before the end of the year, and he was a little overloaded, so he could not join us today. So sorry you're not getting Matt and you're only getting me, but I've got so much stuff to talk to you all about. I figured I would just go on a Lisa rant, if you will. So, number one, I should note that it is slightly snowing here in northern New Jersey right now, and it looks actually a little pretty for a moment. Don't you love that moment when snow looks pretty but not dangerous? That's what it looks like right about now here in Jersey. So, you might notice that my angle looks a little bit different here today. The backdrop is still the backdrop, and yes, that's a real wall. It's not fake. It's wallpaper. Don't tell anybody. Um, but we got some new furniture here in the office this week. So my desk setup is a little bit different and I'm getting used to, that slight change. So the podcast station feels a little different today and my soundboard isn't operating as normal. So my sound might be a little different today and I'm a little congested. So ignore all of that. So I wanted to say first a thank you to everybody who gave to my Facebook fundraiser for my birthday last year and this year. I was collecting money to buy new furniture with for the office, and I'm really happy to say that we got a great deal. We got a good discount. We got some brand new furniture, and I have for the first time ever brand new furniture in my HCMA office. Everything else has been hand-me-downs and donations up to now. So to all of those who donated desks to me over the years and got me through, thank you for that. And now we have a big girl desk. So yay. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to do a couple things today. And Julie, I didn't tell you about this one. And if I bring some tears, I apologize. This time of year, we always think about family members during the holidays. And if you can notice, I'm wearing a tie today, a very fancy festive tie. It was my father's, and he tied the knot in this. Dad died in 2008, and he hated tying ties. So every year for Christmas, he would slip this over his neck, and then every year at Christmas, I wear Dad's tie now, and keeps him close. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my dad and why Christmas I think about him a lot. 2006, Dad had a very complicated open heart procedure. It wasn't a myectomy. He ended up having 7 different things done to his heart in, I guess it was June of 2006, maybe it was July. And he ended up having a protracted stay in intensive care, which led to his kidneys failing, his liver failing, and then they bounced back. And he was doing well from September all the way through to December. And in December of 2006, it was around December 14th or 15th. I can't remember the exact day, but he ended up in the hospital. And I was used to him going to the hospital for atrial fibrillation, cardiovertim, send him back out there. That's how we rolled. We're an HCM family, just put us in there, shock us, send us back out to life. But this time was different. And Dad was in kidney failure and had to make some decisions for himself. He and I and other members of our family and some of our HCM community may relate to this. We are horrible sticks, meaning you can't get an IV started on us. It's always traumatic. Our veins are crap. So getting a line in is a big deal. I know for some people it's not a big deal. God bless you, you're lucky. I had to have a tooth extracted this week and it took 3 sticks to get an IV in me. So we still have this problem. So Dad, not liking sticks, he'd go get cardioverted in a heartbeat, but pun intended, but he didn't like getting the IV put in. So finding out that he might have to do dialysis was pretty devastating to him. And he said, I don't want to do it. So here it is, like 2 weeks before Christmas, and Dad loves Christmas. I said, Dad, if you don't do dialysis, you're not going to make it to Christmas. Do you want to make it to Christmas? He said, Yes, I want to make it to Christmas. And I made him a promise. And that promise was, when you want to stop dialysis, I promise I'll have your back. And I know what that means. And he said, You promise? I said, I promise. So in 2006, a couple of days before Christmas, my father was fitted with a fistula and he started dialysis 3 days a week. And he continued that dialysis for 18 months approximately, at which point I had to keep my promise. But that's a different podcast, and a much harder topic. But on this day, my father chose to have a little Christmas miracle, um, which we thought would be his last Christmas. He ended up making it another Christmas. So I think about my dad making that very selfless decision to go ahead and go on dialysis, to be there for his family for the holidays, one or two more times. So when I pull out Dad's tie, I think about Dad at the holiday season and how much he was willing to do to be there for the holidays. So that's to my daddy. And to all of you who've lost your dads or moms or children or siblings at the holidays, I'm thinking about you. I also ended up losing my mom in 2014 on December 11th, so heading into the holidays. So it's a kind of a odd time of loss and celebration and year-end, emotions. And I know a lot of you feel that too. So I'm just telling you, you're not alone. We hear you, we feel you. And now I'm going to get into my news dial update. I'm watching the morning show on Apple TV right now. I'm a little obsessed with the back end of how they do morning news. So I'm going to do that today on the podcast. I have my little cheat sheet, which I don't normally keep with me when I'm doing podcasting. So we're going to talk about some cool things that are coming to the HCM community this year, meaning ahead. Okay, so updates, news style. Coming in 2025 to the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association service model, we're going to be adding some new discussion groups to our our run of show, I guess you'd call it. I'm trying to find something here in the background here. Give me 1 second. Why am I not? Oh, I know what's going on. Hold on 1 second, guys. I got a studio problem here in the background. I don't know. Oh, that's why. There's the comments. Okay, so shout out to Julie, who's going to be dropping some links for us today on the upcoming events. All right, so back to the news. Coming up in 2025, we are going to be adding 3 new discussion groups. One will be monthly, probably starting in February. And then the other one will be a bi-monthly group. One will be a women's group. You asked for it, you got it. And one will be a men's group. And this is going to be a men under 40 group. And we have 2 amazing gentlemen who are going to be moderating that group. And we have some powerhouse women that are going to be running the women's group. And that is women of any age. Men, we're going to try to focus on the 40-ish and under group because they're not participating at the level that we want. So I got 2 great young guys who are going to bring some energy and some conversation to that demographic because your issues are a little bit different. And I want to make sure that you have a place where you can feel comfortable and get some good information. Excuse me. And, some bro time. Some time to hang with the guys and talk about guy things. Some women time to talk about women things. And then every other month, I'm going to be running a group that's just going to focus on the genetic discussion. We are moving into a new age of therapies for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And we've been talking about genetic testing since 2004 in the HCMA. So it's been 20 years that we talked about the value of genetic testing, and we've used it primarily for family screening. If the index person knew their genetic mutation, then the rest of the family could be screened, and that was pretty much the value. Then we started to learn more about mimickers, or these thick hearts that are not hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, these thick hearts that have a different genetic reason: amyloidosis, Fabry's disease, Danon disease, rheopathies like Noonan syndrome. So Then we started to use genetics to figure out which bucket do you belong in? Why is your heart thick? And we're getting there. We're getting some progress there. And now in 2024, we now have genetic therapies coming to HCM. And earlier this week, the amazing team at Tenaya had an investor call, and they talked about the results in the first 3 patients with gene therapy, all of which happened at the Cleveland Clinic. And the results look very promising so far. One little blip of a safety issue, somebody needed IV prednisone or IV steroid. Lost the word there for a minute, people. Sorry about that. In the hospital, and because it was delivered IV in the hospital, it was considered as a safety event that was reported, but the patient did fine. So all 3 are doing well, and there is signal in the heart that the genetic material that was delivered in the gene therapy is reaching the destination, is reaching the heart. These are early signals. These are really promising. So as new data comes out and we learn more about other companies, gene therapies like Rocket Pharmaceutical, who's doing the Danon study, as we learn more about how these gene therapies are working, we're going to have discussion groups to continue the conversation and how we're learning. They are going to be limited to 30 people per group. So when they're listed, sign up and show up, because if you sign up and you don't show up, you may not be able to get in the next time. So stay tuned for those events. And I look forward to seeing where we are next year, this time with our data on gene therapy. It's an exciting time. So I was cleaning out my desk to get my new desk in, and I found a pin actually over in Liv's office right now. But I made this little piece of art that was inspired by a book given to me by an original board member, Linda Price. Shout out, Linda. And it was When Pigs Fly. And if you've never read the children's book, it's a little bit of a tearjerker, but read the book. But I used to have a saying that there's no cure for HCM, but someday pigs might fly. I am bringing back that artwork, and we are going to bring it back. It's a little cartoony. It's a little cute. It's not really the current brand, but that's okay. Pigs might fly, people. Pigs might fly. What do I mean by that? For some people with gene therapy, a cure may be possible in their lifetime. If you told me 5 years ago I would even dare to say that publicly, I would have told you you were insane. But times are changing, technology is changing, and it's happening. Let's see where it goes. Let's see who's using this. Let's see what the cost effectiveness is. We've got a lot to learn, and we're going to get there together. So that's why we're going to be doing those discussion groups. Next up in the news is Centers of Excellence. So HCMA began the HCMA Recognized Center of Excellence program informally, probably in the late 90s, as we referred to our top KOLs, our key opinion leader, physicians, Dr. Barry Mayer, Dr. Mark Sherritt, Dr. Harry Lever, Rick Nishimura, who were my early ones, Christine Seidman in the UK, Bill McKenna, Perry Elliott. So there was this core group of docs that got it. And I went and I visited all of their programs, and I talked to them about structure, and I looked at the care model, and we worked together to improve it. And then in the early 2000s, a couple of larger centers came to us and said, what works best for patients? And there the HCMA Recognized Center of Excellence brand began. And we worked with multiple institutions around the country to develop their programs. So the early ones, I call them legacy programs. And then there's the early generations, which was the original Tufts program, which is now the Leahy program, and University of Michigan and Stanford. And they all started to percolate and pop up. And they said, what are your best practices? How do we do this? And we helped the creation of these programs, and they continue to evolve and include all of the disciplines that are needed for somebody with HCM in and outside of cardiology. We aren't just heart disease patients. We're human beings who have other body parts that need attention, but our cardiac status can complicate how we're treated. So that was the philosophy of why we needed a center, why centers need good communication mechanisms, and infrastructure to support this patient community, not only today and tomorrow, but for decades to come. They need to build a system that is sustainable and that they're training physicians in. And we have so much more to do there. In the past couple of years, we've added some elements to the application, including areas of health equity to ensure that the staff of the program matches the community of the program. If you are in a community that is heavily Latino, we want to see Latino members of your team serving that population. We want to see a mix of men and women. We want to see a mix of early career, mid career, late career. That's how evolution happens in a positive way. And we make sure that the younger generation of cardiologists understand the total complexities of the disease and that we expand knowledge and understanding and care models. So I'm super happy to announce that there will be several announcements in the first quarter of new centers that we have already approved at the board. So you'll be launching 3 programs in the first quarter, definitely, maybe 4 programs. So the Georgia region and the Washington State region, new names coming to you. Not ready to make the formal announcement quite today. But if you've been following us, you probably know where I've been. So it's not going to be a big surprise, but we want to give them the moment to say it themselves from their points of view. So we're looking to welcome a number of new programs for evaluation this year as well. It is probably one of the most successful programs that we have ever built, and it now serves over 75,000 patients in the United States. So again, if you told me back in 2005 that we would have 55 programs by the end of 2024, I would have laughed and said, there's not that many people interested in HCM. But there are, and our space is growing, and our partners are growing. The science is getting more interesting, and we're bringing more people in. The key is these institutions must build sustainable models. We had a couple early on in our programming that popped up and kind of disappeared or didn't put the institutional support behind it. It's really important that the institutions that we're partnering with are investing in these programs and giving the staff the tools that they need to succeed and not overworking our very, very hardworking HCM physicians. This is a two-way street, and sometimes patients forget that their disease state is somebody else's career state. How do you get a career state and a disease state to balance? How do we keep the staff working, interested, happy, rested, and ready to take care of us? And how do we come as patients prepared to have that conversation with our chosen healthcare providers to make the most of that meaningful conversation? So really excited about our new Center of Excellence partners. You'll be hearing about them soon. And now from the world of HCMA ambassadors, Mayor, perfect timing for the message here, one of our ambassadors. So the HCMA Ambassador Program will be expanding in the first quarter of 2025. If you are interested in serving as an HCMA social ambassador or local ambassador, please reach out to Julie Russo, and she will make sure that you are signed in. We need to make sure you've had an intake and a nav call. We want to make sure that you've put on your oxygen mask first before you go helping other people. So trust the process. Sign up if you're interested. We'd love to have you. Even if you're going to post once or twice a quarter something about your HCM in your social media feed, that's great. You want to go out to community health fairs in your area representing us, absolutely come on in. Talk to Julie. How can we do this? We will have some local events coming up I'll talk about in a few minutes where you can come out and wear, your HCMA ambassador colors and get behind the effort and really talk to your other patients out there and let them see that we come from all walks of life. We're not just, patient advocates. We're patients working and producing in the community. Some of you have really cool jobs. Some of you have really interesting life stories to share that are really educational, inspiring to others. So if you want to amplify your voice, join our ambassador program. Okay, next up in the news, the HCMA has long been here serving this patient population. And I started with note cards at a little desk in my house. And I used to write your names on a little note card and jot down some notes about your diagnosis or whatever, so I would know what to talk to you about or where we are. That has evolved quite extensively since 1996. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold and I'm a little coffee today. Sorry about that. So the data collection has evolved as we have. We are really careful about what we collect and how we collect it and where we collect it. And over time, it has evolved. And now all of our data is captured in something called a REDCap database. It's a project or a program that's run by Vanderbilt University. And we have our own little part of this cloud where our data sits, very secure. And it is our opportunity to see where you are at that moment in time. We always ask that you call and do an intake when you first find us, not when you're in the middle of a crisis, so that we can understand who you are, how you like to learn, make sure that you have the base knowledge and the resources to take care of whatever you need to take care of. So we start with that intake and then the navigation call. Got some updates coming on that too. But then you're going to have an opportunity to consent on how HCMA uses that data. And I'm going to be honest with you, I got a problem with data usage. Too many people are using data that we don't know where they're using it or how they're using it. And as a patient advocacy organization, I think it is absolutely critical that you, the patient, the holder of the data, the person with the lived experience, gets to say how your data is used. So we're going to give you options. HCMA can use this information, always de-identified, with one little asterisk we'll talk about in a minute. For retrospective analysis, how many people have we served? What was your age of diagnosis? What is your age of first symptom? What are you dealing with? Just the kind of global, who are we as a community? And then there'll be the opportunity for you to choose to allow us to share your de-identified data with our academic partners or our research partners. And then there'll be a level where you will allow us to let you know when there's an opportunity to potentially sell your data to an interested company. We'll kind of be the middleman between that. And the goal would be, if they're interested, that you would share in the compensation for that data. Right now in America, your health insurance companies are selling your data without your knowledge, and it's making up a pretty considerable part of their revenue at this time. I want to put the control back in the hands of the patient and the family to decide where and who gets to use their data. So we'll be calling you throughout the year or offering you online opportunities to consent, group meetings to learn about what we're doing and choose which consent fits you, or an individual call from one of our staff members. So you're going to be hearing from our team. You're going to learn about not only our research initiatives, but you're going to learn about all the upcoming clinical trials. You're going to learn about maybe market research opportunities and how you can get involved in the bigger community. So when we call and we ask if you're ready for an appointment, take the time, do an update, listen to the options. You might find a clinical trial that is really helpful for you or meaningful for you. Or maybe you'll just keep informed with the HCMA and learn about whatever we're doing at that moment in time. So trials change quite frequently. And when we open a trial, I encourage you to get involved early in that trial because they've been filling up quite quickly. Okay, so who's going to be talking to you? You're finally going to meet Artie and Maria, our new intake coordinators, who have been in the incubator, I call it, conference room, until our office expanded enough so they could actually have real desks. So they've been training since October on all things HCM, learning how our systems work, learning the disease state, listening into calls. So if you've had them on your call as shadowing, thank you for allowing us to train our new staff with your experience. Excuse me. So you're going to start meeting them shortly after the first of the year. They're going to start making outbound calls. So if you get a call from us, understand what we're trying to do. We'll give you lots of ways to connect and make it comfortable for you. This also is going to allow us an opportunity to expand operation hours on the West Coast. to be able to do later West Coast intakes. I know it's been a challenge for you all, and we've had Sabrina on our team for almost 4 years now, and we've been doing some later calls. We're going to open up with Artie and Maria each doing one evening per week with a later start date or start time so that they are available for later hours. And then that brings me to my next piece of good news. We are bringing on a second nurse navigator. I'm not going to formally introduce her today, but for those of you over the past year who've done a navigation call with Noreen Dolan, shout out to Noreen. We love Noreen. Probably one of the most meaningful acquisitions I've had in a long time because it freed me up to be able to do so many other things. So I still do some navigation calls personally, but they're kind of specialized calls for pre-transplant and pediatric, and Noreen is kind of covering the rest. But we're going to have more days available for navigation calls and more hours when we bring in this new nurse navigator who needs to be trained throughout the first quarter, and will probably be on the phones live, hopefully end of February, beginning of March. But she'll be mirroring or shadowing Noreen for a while, doing some training. So you may get a request for somebody to shadow. So stay tuned for more on that. Next up in our newscast, we talked a little bit earlier about gene therapy and gene education. We are exploring the opportunity of submitting a letter of intent to the FDA to conduct another patient-focused drug development meeting on an area that we didn't cover in our last PFDD, because we were talking about burden of disease and disease state of HCM as a global state. As we move into genetic therapies, we are now looking at doing a PFDD focused on the particular genetic mutations that are under investigation for gene therapies or will be at some point. So when we break down the disease into each different gene, there are very different issues that we need to discuss as a big-hearted community. What is right in Danon disease versus MYBPC3 versus a BAG mutation, which is more of like a dilated cardiomyopathy, but they can cross over HCM or DCM. What should we be thinking about as a community? What risks are we as patients willing to accept to move into a genetic therapy era? What are the cost burdens to us as patients over our lifetime of disease versus what could it be with a gene therapy and a cure potentially, or maybe a once to twice in a lifetime dosing? We don't know where gene therapy is going, but we know it's going to be part of the future. So we want to have that conversation with our regulators, and I'm really kind of interested to see, well, we'll talk about the whole political landscape in just a minute, but we will make our decisions by the end of January whether we're going to move ahead with that PFDD or not. There's some funding issues that need to be straightened out, and we need to bring our partners together on that one. So number 7, I'm actually turning this into the 12 Days of Christmas HCM style. So number 7 on my list was what I briefly talked about earlier with those clinical trials that are coming up. So we know that there's genetic clinical trials. We've talked about that a little bit, and we're going to talk about that more in the coming year. But there are also SGLT1, SGLT2 trials coming up. There's going to be more trials in the cardiac myosin inhibitor space. We're learning more about the role of myosin inhibitors in non-obstructed. The apical presentation has been long excluded from trials because of the various anatomies. We're trying to get more data on apical HCM and what responds well to that. We'd love to get our hands around some other issues related to HCM that are not well understood in terms of management strategies, that there are no current clinical trials for, but we hope we can get people interested in these spaces. Atrial fibrillation and HCM, we just don't respond the way others do. What can we do? So clinical trials and maybe pushing research a little bit in those areas. Speaking of research and clinical trials, and where do they lead? The goal is that a concept leads to a label, and that label means a doctor can prescribe it. And if a doctor can prescribe it, then insurance companies should pay for it. So it's a continuum of how does this all happen? How does an idea become a pill that you get to take every day? And that date is called a PDUFA date, and this is the day that the FDA is due to respond to an application for a label use of the drug. And on September 26, 2025, Cytokinetics will get word on aficamten, which will then have another name. So we're playing the name game here. You get your drug name and then you get your commercial name. So mavacamten became Camzyos. Aficamten will become something else, and we'll find out that name closer to the launch date. So from here on, we'll refer to it as aficamten or Afi, but it will have another name at some point. And on September 26th or before, hopefully, we will be hearing news on that. So stay tuned for that exciting information. Number 9 on my Christmas list is insurance and access information. I know a lot of you are panicking right now, and I use that word very specifically because you found out that your Medicare Advantage plan doesn't have Camzyos on the formulary at this time. Do not panic. We have a workaround for this. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, and we'll cut this clip and we'll send it out so this clip gets held. If you have an active prescription or you're getting a prescription for Camzyos and you have a Medicare Advantage program, they will tell you it is not on formulary. Your doctor can submit a pre-authorization. So yes, your doctor has to take the time to fill out a form and go through the game with the insurance company. We're going to be focusing a lot on that in the coming year. But we know that most of those pre-authorizations will be accepted. In the event that your pre-authorization is declined, put in an appeal. Go through the appeals process. If you need help, we are here to help you. But your doctor's office can typically help you with that first appeal. If your appeal is denied, so you've tried to get a pre-authorization, you've filed for an appeal, and they still say no, call us. Call the HCMA. We will get involved at that time. If we got involved on everybody's pre-auth or first appeal, 87% or thereabouts will go through without a problem. If you find that you have failed in those 2 steps, before you go for your third appeal, your third step, call us to make sure that we have the ability to make sure you have all the information that you need, you're well organized, and that whoever you're doing the appeal with is perfectly aware that you are working with a patient advocacy organization who will have absolutely no problems amplifying the fact that they're not giving one of their members the medication that the doctor thinks is required. So that is when we will get into the fight with you. Call the office, email us, we will help you. So I made it number 9 on my list, but it really does get a little bit deeper than that. So insurance issues in the United States 2024-25. The world is probably going to change. We are going to need you to use your voice to ensure positive change happens, not negative change happens. We could be in some fights this year. Pre-existing conditions cannot come back to haunt us. We dealt with that in 2008. We're not going backwards. We're going forward. There are about 75 million people in America with pre-existing medical conditions. We have power in numbers. We have to remember that. So we're going to have to fight when we need to fight. Stay tuned. We'll let you know when those battles are coming and brewing. We're building some internal coalitions with our advocacy partners so that we can respond quickly to moves of our government agencies that are not in the best interest of patients and families, whether it is in their physical health or their financial health related to their health. We need to make sure that we're sticking together on that. So stay tuned for that one, which brings me to number 10 on the list. Heart Month is coming up in February, and many of you have participated in the Share Your Story program. Each day we will have one or more featured patients through the entire month of February through Heart Month. We will be running legislative briefings weekly with state legislative offices. You'll be welcome to participate as members of those states. while we try to talk to your legislative leaders about the Children's Cardiac Safety Act, which used to be the Healthy Cardiac Monitoring Act. We changed the name. We're looking for as many partners as possible in our space. So any heart charity, small, large, families that want to get involved, we want every child in America to have the opportunity to have their family heart health history examined with their physician, with their family, to determine whether or not they need additional screening and they need care by a cardiologist. So we'll be talking about that all through the month of February and all through the year to try to get legislation passed in as many states as possible to ensure that our children's hearts are protected at the highest level we can provide at this time in a scientifically proven, safe manner to identify those who are at high risk. That brings us to HCM Awareness Day. Julie, if you could drop a link on HCM Awareness Day, which will be, oh my goodness, I forgot the date. Julie, help me, February 20, last Wednesday of the month. I'll get the number for you in a minute. We will be holding a webinar yet again every year. We do a celebration on HCM Awareness Day. If you want to make sure that your state has a proclamation, law, or resolution recognizing HCM Awareness Day, you can reach out to Julie at julie@4hcm.org, and she will make sure that you know exactly what to do to make sure your state is recognizing HCM Awareness Day. February 26th. Thank you, Julie. I forgot the date. It moves every year. Okay. Last two items on my 12 days of Christmas, HCM style. On or before January 9th, the HCMA will be launching its brand new website. It will look a little different, and it will be an evolution going on through the year. As we lean into our new tagline of the home of the big-hearted, or the home for the big-hearted, we are going to be building HCM journey pathways, which we have right now on the page, but they're going to be enhanced with what I wanted to do 4 years ago, but the technology wasn't there. Every page will have the ability for you to learn however you want to learn. Do you want to read about it? Read it. Everything will be cited. You'll know where the data came from. Very clean, very professional. We got you. You want to watch a webinar on that topic? We'll have a snippet right there. You can watch a webinar. Maybe let's talk about beta blockers. So we'll have some data that has been presented by a physician about the role of beta blockers in HCM. Then maybe you'll hear a snippet from a podcast where we discuss beta blockers. Or maybe you want to see a patient story of somebody who's actually on that medication. Maybe you want to see somebody who's had a myectomy and what happened. Maybe you want to watch a myectomy because you like the details. However you want to learn, we're going to be there for you, whether it's visually, audibly, didactically, written, whatever is comfortable for you. You want to join a discussion group on that item, there'll be a link right there how you can join that discussion group. So we're just trying to create a community in which you can learn the way you want to learn about the things that you and your family need to learn about. So why is that going to get dropped on or about January 9th? January 9th is an important day to me personally and to some members of our team here. January 9th was my sister Lori's birthday. And every year on her birthday, I like to do something for the community, create something new, highlight something. And this year it will be a new website. 2 years ago, it was an initiative that I wish Lori had available for her when she was a young mom with HCM and 2 small kids and an ex-husband. And she was struggling financially to get by. And it would have been helpful to her to get financial support to go to her center of excellence at that time. So we started the Lori Fund with the idea that nobody should feel that they can't get to a center of excellence because of financial restraint. So we have started to offer a stipend up to $600 to grant that you can apply for those who have financial needs. So there are some documents you need to file with us to get access to this fund. And all of those are written on the website, so you'll know exactly who qualifies. And if you qualify, please, please, please use it. This year we were able to give 15 scholarships, and we have funding to do the same or more next year. If you would like to donate to the Lori Fund, your dollars go to those other patients. What we do to keep the program running is we take a small, like, administrative fee every time we process an application. We put a little bit into the general fund to cover our expenses for going through that. So fill out the applications. We have them to give away. We have gotten people to be able to get their myectomies at the center that they needed to be at. We have helped patients get assessed for sudden cardiac arrest risk. We have helped people go for their follow-up visits because it's just too far and their local docs don't understand. So please use the Lori Fund, or if you're able, please contribute. $600 supports one whole family. If you can give $600 over the year, do it in a $50 a month directed donation to the Lori Fund. You can pay for a scholarship per year. If you want to give $10 a month, if you want to give a flat donation, we're happy to take anything, and it goes directly back to patients who can get to their centers. Additionally, and I didn't put this on my 12 Christmas, so we're actually on 13 right now, so I have to go to 14 because you can't enter 13. If you are interested in a membership, number one, to process a membership is not what the membership fee is. We charge $82. We haven't increased it since 2018. And we've been subsidizing it with industry sponsorships and with other donations. It takes about $350 to process an intake and navigation call per person per year. And we ask for membership of $82. If you can't afford it, we have scholarships available. But if you can afford it, it really does help to be able to provide more services. The price is probably going to go up next year, mid-year. So if you join now, you'll get the lower rates. But we are really subsidizing it quite a bit at this point, and we need to keep an eye on that. But if you need it, services will always be here. But membership does help us keep the lights on and keep the phones ringing. I'm actually going to put out a fundraising request this year because now I have more staff, so there's more people, and that phone bill's getting big. So I'm going to look for a phone sponsor each year now, so somebody can sponsor our phone lines every year, and that'll be a lot of fun. So item number 14 on my list for 2025. I have had the opportunity to do some amazing things to help this community grow. And we're going to have to do more work, more collaborative work. We're going to have to think bigger and smaller at the same time. HCM is a complicated disease. And as much as I wish we were like other disease states that were simple and complicated in their way, but simple, that if you have the disease, here's your treatment, have a nice day. We're never going to be that disease state. You're all going to be a little bit different. Some of you are going to struggle with arrhythmias. Some of you are going to have heart failure. Some of you are going to be asymptomatic 80% of the time and frustrated 20% of the time because you want to be that 80. Some of you will go to transplant like I did. Some of you will need open heart surgery. Some of you will need catheter-based procedures. Some of you will benefit from new medications. Some of you may benefit from genetic therapy. You're each special, individual, and unique, but the playbook is the playbook. When to play that potential treatment option, we can help you figure that out. We are your partner. We are the ones that we can cry together. We can laugh together. We can make stupid transplant jokes together and we'll understand it. Those of us who have survived stroke can make brain damage jokes and understand it. We are in a very unique space here, and we will continue to grow that space together. Currently, in our private Facebook group, we are approaching 12,000 people. That's pretty amazing, but it's going to grow faster. We are adding 45 people a week to our private group now. We have not had growth like this ever. And when growth amplifies, it starts to roll faster and faster. So you are going to meet some new moderators on the Facebook pages. You're going to see some new names and some new concepts. You're going to see different projects evolve. And in January, we are going to be meeting as a board for a strategic planning retreat where you'll see our messaging get a little tighter and our focus get a little cleaner and our fundraising efforts get a little more improved. Well, I've never been a big fundraising organization, but we're going to have to get out there and raise some more money to do the things that you as a community need and that we need to advocate for on every level. So that is where we're going to go in 2025. I am going to sign off now for the last podcast of 2024 with my sincere gratitude to my entire HCMA team, my internal staff, our contractors, our board, our volunteers, our ambassadors, our Center of Excellence partners, our legislative partners, our industry sponsors, our corporate friends. There are so many new names that you're going to hear in 2025 and 2026. Companies that have never been in this space before are coming. I'm under NDA. I can't say much now, but there is nothing but opportunity coming our way as a community. So, on this, the last podcast, I am honored to be the CEO of a dream that I built in 1996 out of absolute devastation. And I know many of you have felt that sting of devastation of the loss of a loved one from HCM. But we're here to ensure that families can be kept whole and that we can do amazing things. And next year, I'm going to talk to you in detail about an amazing project under our Health Equity Committee called the All Hearts Collaborative, and some amazing new friends we have met from Newark, New Jersey, and where we are going to make a difference in diagnosing all who need to be diagnosed with HCM, and that we do not let biases and we do not let history stop us from getting to the most vulnerable populations in underserved communities. They deserve a diagnosis. They deserve the opportunity for care. And we are going to go into the communities and we are going to start talking about HCM, amyloidosis, uncontrolled hypertension, all thick heart muscle diseases to aid in the discovery of who needs the care. And we're going to make sure that they get it. So I leave 2024 optimistic for 2025, even though we are all facing some amazing challenges. Let's stick together and let's do great things together. Happy holidays from all of us at the HCMA to all of you, and may you have a happy, healthy, and safe new year. Don't overindulge too much. Have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Bye-bye.